There was little anyone could do about it, especially if the crime was committed across state lines. All this had left the people of Diamond, like Moses Carver, in a difficult position. Diamond, Missouri lay just 40 miles from the Arkansas border and less than 20 miles from both Oklahoma and Kansas, making it the perfect raiding spot. In fact, Moses Carver's 240-acre farm had been attacked 3 times before by raiders or bushwhackers, as they were known, who came looking for Moses' stash of money. Being of German stock, though, Moses was far too stubborn to tell them where it was, though he had paid the price for his stubbornness. The bushwhackers had tied him up by his thumbs and dangled him from a walnut tree. When that did not work, they took red-hot coals from the fireplace and branded the bottoms of his feet. Still, Moses refused to talk, and he knew he was lucky they had not slit his throat before they left the farm in frustration. As a result of his treatment, he now walked with a slight limp, and his feet ached after only an hour or 2 of plowing. But the trade-off had seemed worth it to Moses. He might walk with a slight limp now, but the bushwhackers had left him alone. Until tonight.
"Where's Mama gone?"
Jim finally asked, pulling his head away from Moses' chest. "I don't know, Jim, but I think we can stop hiding now," he replied, taking the little boy's hand and leading him out from behind the bush. Moses and Jim emerged into a pool of light from the single lamp hanging in the window of the slave hut. As they did so, Susan, Moses' wife, who had been hiding behind the barn, crept around the corner to see what had happened to her husband and their slave and her 2 children.
"Oh, Moses,"
she gasped when she saw her husband, and seeing Jim at his side, she asked frantically,
"Did they take Mary?"
"Yes," her husband replied gloomily, "and little George." At the news, Susan Carver burst into loud sobs.
How could they? How could they be so cruel? Baby George is too weak to last a night in this cold, and Mary, dear sweet Mary, oh dear God, what will they do with her?" she managed to ask between sobs.
Moses had no answer for her. He knew that the Civil War, which still raged on, had caused some respectable white men to act very cruelly. He wished it could be all over and things could go back to the way they were before. But the war had been going on for 3 years and showed no sign of letting up. Not surprisingly, the Carvers got no sleep that night. Susan sat in her rocking chair holding Jim as he slept. And every time she looked over at Mary's spinning wheel, she felt more sobs beginning to rise in her chest. Meanwhile, Moses, his face ashen with concern, paced the living room floor, piecing together in his mind a plan to find and rescue Mary and, if he was still alive, which seemed unlikely, baby George. By the time the first rays of sun crept across the farm, it had been settled. Susan would stay in the house with the door firmly barred, while her husband rode off in search of his neighbor, John Bentley. John Bentley was a Union scout, and he knew as much as anyone in the area about the movements of the bushwhackers and which particular group may have raided the Carver farm during the night. Indeed, he had heard rumors that a party of bushwhackers had been active in the area, and it made sense that they would raid the Carver farm since it was only a short ride across the state line, where they could get easy money selling a fit young slave like Mary. Eventually, Moses struck a bargain with John Bentley. If John could find Mary and steal her back, Moses would reward him with 40 acres of prime timberland and a racehorse named Pacer. Together they were worth $1,100, $400 more than Moses had paid for Mary when he bought her from a neighbor 6 years before. This deal seemed foolish to John. It was almost certain that the war would eventually end in favor of the Union Army, and such an outcome would lead to the freeing of all slaves. So why would Moses want to spend $1,100 rescuing her?